It's really a wonderful joy to have you all here today. Thank you for coming to celebrate the completion of a 3-year project to replace windows in our chapel, and to do that so that we could not only conserve energy and enhance the beauty of the place, but really to bring wonderful art into this worship space. In the Hebrew Scriptures, God, who is called wisdom, is found in creation and in the cosmos. She, wisdom, is a tree of life, an architect, a hostess, and one who invites everyone to the table. These are a few of the key scriptural themes which inspire the decisions in this chapel and in these windows. And so we celebrate today. I turn this over now to Sister Joanne Iannotti, our Art and Spirituality Coordinator.
For my part today, I'd like to begin by calling on some voices from some of the neighboring centuries: the 18th century, the 19th century, and the 20th century. In the 18th century, Voltaire wrote, "Beauty must be felt as well as perceived." In the 19th century, Oscar Wilde wrote, "The mystery of the world is in the visible, not the invisible." In the 20th century, Susan Sontag wrote, "Transparency is the highest, most liberating value in art." Transparency, she wrote, means experiencing things as they are. The mystery and beauty of the space that we're in today will ground those who sit here and visit this space, and it will give them an opportunity to experience the divine. This is not a place for people to run away from the world, but hopefully it will aid them to live in the world more fully. It will help them to live more transparently, because it will engage them in the mystery of the world, in the mystery of creation. When I met you 2 years ago to begin to talk about this project, we met in this room, and you said to me, "When people come in here, I want them to know." So of course my question was, know what? But he knew exactly what he was saying. He said, when people come into this room, because he knew we were an interfaith center, he said, "I want people to know that the spirit that is within nature, that surrounds this whole place, is the same spirit that is within them."
The conversation began about how I could actually do something in this room. And at that point, I had to just look into myself as an artist and actually really ask myself the question of what was the central issue that really governs what I do as an artist. And it boils down to really doing something about the struggle for light and space that goes on in the whole of creation. And so I said to Sister Joanne, let's make a vine that goes around the whole room and carries on the vine all the prayers and all of the aspirations of the different faiths of the world. And they would, and you could see the text going through the vine, and the text would culminate in fruit that would be based on poetry and verse from all of the different faiths. That was the very first idea. And as we started to develop it, I started investigating all kinds of different ways in which we could interface different poetic texts. And it became clear that what we could start to see happening was a kind of argument rather than a synthesis, and that one could get too stuck on texts, and rather than actually going straight to the heart of the matter. And so both Sister Joanne and Sister Rosemary really encouraged me to remember what it is that I was most centered in, self. And so they said, just simply read the Book of Wisdom, the Wisdom of Solomon. I was very touched by particularly chapter 7 in the Book of Wisdom, where Solomon refers to being instructed by the constellation and by the plants and by the roots, by animals, by all of creation. So this whole issue of inspiration comes to mind. And so to create a space in which one could feel inspired became the project. And I looked through lots of different attempts that had been made in this way in the past in different cathedrals and churches throughout the world. And I wanted to avoid any pinpointing any heavily ecclesiastic reference, because I wanted people to really find a place in themselves when they're in a place like this. The idea of a chapel, the idea of a place for contemplation, to me, really is about giving people a chance to surround themselves with themselves, to come to themselves, to come to their senses. The thing that I would like to be able to say today, because I think it's important, in a mission like the Daughters of Wisdom, is to bring attention to some of the more basic things in creation: food, caring for one another, the environment, being able to live in the world. When you want to feel free, when you are feeling free, you're feeling the wind on your face, you're feeling the sun on your skin, you're feeling clean air, and you're eating good food, and you're feeling alive, and you're feeling companionship and interaction between people, and the free exchange between people, and then you're really living. This is the greatest ambition that we can have. I want to briefly talk a little bit about the making of the windows. We wanted to bring as much light into the room as possible. So the idea of using leaded light has such a baggage behind it, for one thing, and it's got such a lot of occlusion of actual light, that I wanted to think of another way of doing this, to maximize the light. And so I actually looked into technologies that are only just becoming available, where architectural glass now can carry color and can be put into buildings on a massive scale. But imagery has not yet been really included in that kind of work, because the kind of inspired patronage that we got here in this mission hasn't really been available, because it takes a dedicated research and development mission to really make it happen. But I actually used a technology which is only just been made available because the testing has been going on exhaustively out in the New Mexican desert to make sure that the sun and the interaction with the color can be as permanent as possible. And so I went with a collaboration of different companies who were helping me to produce the films that could be laid into the glass and baked into the glass and made as a full IG unit with the full thermal insulation and everything to go with it. So these are permanent windows. These are not things laid up against the glass. They are actually permanent fixtures. And they also have the full thermal insulation that you need in a room like this. The other thing was how to bring painting, the intimate act of painting, the direct act of touch that you get with painting, on an amplified scale like this. I would take paintings and I would transfer them, scan them into the computer, and then be working on files that were 72 inches high in Photoshop, which is a very, very big file. And you're making individual files of about 1 gigabyte a piece. Now this would be impossible 5 years ago. I wanted to be able to take the small and make it large. This is one of the things that's the center of what I really care about. Taking intimate acts, small engagements, and creating an immersive feeling was a very exciting possibility for me. Because it's not just about the light, it's also about gesture. So that when I look at a tree, I don't see leaves, I don't see branches, I see gesture. I see like a force that's moving out through the plant. And I wanted to convey this rather than to describe any one vegetable or tree. I wanted to give a feeling that the force that moves the tree is also moving the wind and is also moving oneself. And that's basically the thing I wanted to do, and I didn't want it to be something that people would be sitting here and be thinking about too much. I didn't want to give people things to think about. I wanted to give sensation. I wanted to create sensation where one was actually moved, so that one could actually sort of be in turn moved again when one gets out there in the air and in the light.